Leeds, followed by Emma. Mary.
We're actually going to reverse your order. So I'm going to introduce Mary, and it is a real privilege to introduce Mary Brennan. Mary and I have known each other for the last couple of years. We met through Leeds Poverty Truth Commission, which was inspired by the Poverty Truth Commission in Scotland. It's a way of bringing together people with first-hand experience of poverty, along with civic, business and faith leaders, to think, meet and work together to tackle poverty locally. As our strategy says, we know that in every community there are people who are struggling with poverty, who are working incredibly hard to solve poverty locally for themselves, their friends and families, their neighbours and their communities. And it is great that in this room today, among the audience, there are so many people who have travelled from Hartlepool, Salford, Manchester, Leeds, other parts of the country, who have exactly that first-hand experience. So thank you for coming here today, and that includes Mary Brennan. Mary, over to you to tell us something about what you've been doing to solve poverty locally, and if you want to start by saying a bit about where you live in your community in Leeds.
Where I live in Leeds is 15 minutes from Leeds city centre in an area called Cross Green. This area went through a particularly bad time some years ago, and people moved out, sold up or just left the homes. We had a lot of boarded up houses. So eventually the private sector took over, and our housing and housing stock changed dramatically, as we're made up of through terraces, back-to-backs, new housing now. And with this came the change from the private sector. The through terraces were made into HMOs, which are houses of multiple occupancy. So with the through 4-bedroom terrace with a cellar, that means they could house 7 people because there was 7 rooms available, which obviously changed dramatically for a family living in a terrace house, having 7 people live separately next door, because many of the people had very complex needs. They'd had a setback in life. They weren't used to living with different people. There was many tensions in these houses because they shared a kitchen, they shared bathrooms. So sharing a kitchen brought the problem that when someone ran out of food, they ate someone else's food. And it was terrible because everybody living in the houses seemed in a really the same situation of having nothing to share with each other. So in a lot of cases, they turned on each other or they'd mental health problems, and the other people living in the house found them difficult to live with. And so it was a really dramatic change from being just a family area.
And you've talked about work as well.
Work, it was difficult for people working there, so our housing would obviously be a little cheaper than other parts of Leeds. So the people living in the houses, the families, they had work in the catering industry in the Leeds city centre, which was convenient for them in getting to work and the unsocial hours. But that brought problems as well, because at holiday times there were lots of work, and then through the winter months, no hours at all. So they really did struggle because the houses are old, they're difficult to heat. So with that brought the problems for our families as well. Even if the wife was working, they only had part-time hours, and when it's not busy, they don't have many hours either. So everybody around us was struggling, and it particularly struck me one Saturday evening when I was going home, and I was going along the street in the evening with my shopping, and a guy was walking the other way, so I said hi. He said, "Oh, so you've got your shopping." So I immediately knew I'd done something wrong with having the shopping. So I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Would you like some?" So I put my bags on the floor. I said, "Take some." And it really touched me because he didn't take the biscuits or the cake. I had to really cajole him to take. I said, "Come on, take a luxury." And it really made me sad to think that he didn't think he deserved having a small luxury. So from that, it escalated that the housing, you know, everybody was struggling so much because it was the really bad winter. And he brought a guy that had moved into the same HMO with him, that he'd moved in and he had absolutely nothing, and they were in the situation, they didn't have a kettle, a toaster or anything, because overnight one of the other tenants had stole all them. So as a group we were fortunate enough to put a shout out and got some things together. And then other people were coming, knocking the door, food, no problem, because I was fortunate to be in a group and we could all buy extra things, but there wasn't, as when we spoke about it, there was not much dignity in handing food through your front door to someone. So we decided to approach St Hilda's Church in Cross Green and ask for their community room to cook a meal, a hot meal, one day each week, which they said that's fine, they welcomed us, but there wasn't a kitchen. So we had to use the little electric hobs to cook the meal. That the room was quite old, so that kept tripping the electric. And so as it got busier and busier, because we never advertised it, because we didn't feel that gave anybody any dignity either, so we went out each Wednesday and knocked the doors, or if we saw anyone, and invited them to come and eat with us. So from that, we do have a kitchen now, thanks to a charity. We have got double ovens, we have got a kitchen, which is a godsend, because it's busier and busier.
So who comes?
Our neighbours come. Some people that did live by us but have moved on, we've managed to move them on into better housing. They still come. And it's lovely because they exchange books. They look forward to seeing each other each week. There's plenty of banter. And it's very touching. One person said that he loves Wednesdays, he can drink as much coffee as he likes. Mm-hmm. That's something that we take for granted, but that's a big treat to someone. And we start prep about 10:30. There's people waiting for us. Some help prep, some just like to sit and listen and talk. The community have latched on very well to this idea now. It's taken time and taken patience, but people have now, if they're replacing something in the home, they'll bring it down to the church. So we've quite a good co-op of exchange going on as well, which helps everyone, and it gives people something to look forward to each week as well.
And you've talked about relationships.
Relationships are very important in this. And the most unlikely friendships are formed. And it builds people's self-esteem. And it helps them to start communicating again, because you find a lot of people just put their heads down and walk along the street. And I think being accepted in a community does a lot for a person's self-esteem. And after time, this is happening and people are being accepted even though they're living in different circumstances. So it stopped a lot of the tensions between people in our community. And I think communities and groups and individuals that do start doing things in the community, the community does remain more steadfast and keep its identity as to what we are as, you know, a smallish, I would say quite a small estate, housing estate that's changed. And we've found that connecting with the landlords of the property, but connecting as people that live there and that are neighbours has helped a lot, because the landlords then connect with you and we can advise them when things are going wrong. And in a lot of ways it's helpful for them and it's helpful for us. So it's just making these connections that's really help bring us all together and help other people understand that a small setback doesn't mean it's changed the person.
And if there were one more thing you wanted to say around solving poverty locally, what would that be?
I would say be brave and make that first step, and just even a good morning, a good afternoon, a hi, it makes a person feel like they don't have to walk around with their head down, that they are accepted and they are someone. And maybe that one person saying hello to them may be the only person that speaks to them in days.
Mary, thank you.
Thank you.